Good afternoon. It is Sports Talk on a Budget here on May 24th, the year of our Lord 2025. Different show today, not a ton of news in the NFL, so we'll only have one main NFL topic. But before I go ahead and get into my topics, just want to remind you, as always, if you prefer the video version, please like, subscribe right down here on YouTube under Sports Talk on a Budget. Leave a comment as well. Love seeing the comments as well. However, if you prefer the audio version of Sports Talk on a Budget, please go ahead and like and subscribe to places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. With all that being said, let's go ahead and look at our topics for the show today. And my first topic is going to be near and dear to my heart. It's going to be in college football, and it's going to be about the USC-Notre Dame rivalry and how it may be going away. That rivalry may be in jeopardy after this season. Get into that there, why I think it shouldn't be in jeopardy, and some of the ramifications and some of the things that need to be changed to keep that rivalry afloat and keep it a part of college football, which is where it belongs, of course. Second topic of the day, we're actually going to go into basketball. Done a lot of football, done mostly football on this show for over a year now, but got into a little bit NBA and tell you why I think the new, fresh, young blood in the NBA conference finals, both in the Eastern and Western Conference finals, is good for the league, not just now, but going forward. And then finally, my last topic of the day, we're going to move to the NFL, and the Tush push avoided a ban. Going to get into how that happened, some of the ramifications, and kind of give you my side. I've given you my side before, but I will give you my side a little bit more in this episode as well. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into today's show. So as I mentioned, my first topic on the show is going to be in college football, and it's going to be about the USC-Notre Dame rivalry and how it is in jeopardy. So it was earlier reported this week, I believe on Tuesday, by Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated. Pat Forty is a guy who's been around college football forever. He's been a name that I've heard around college football, especially on the West Coast, it seems forever, it seems like, at least in my lifetime. Reported earlier this week that after this season, so there was one more game left on the current contract for Notre Dame and USC, and that is this year, the 2025 game that is going to happen, I believe, in October in South Bend. That is the last scheduled game between USC and Notre Dame as of right now, as we stand right now. This is a rivalry that has been played since 1924. So 100 years of this rivalry, only missed a handful of games for two reasons. One, because of World War II, the other because of COVID back in 2020. And that is it. Other than a world war or a global pandemic, this game has been played every single year. So that is how much this game is meant to the sport of college football. You have 12 national championships for Notre Dame, 11 national championships for USC. So you're looking at 23 national championships, a ton of big games, a ton of big bowl games, ton of just iconic players that have come from this game. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. O.J. Simpson, Marcus Allen, Joe Montana, Tim Brown, Jerome Bettis, Ronnie Lott for USC. Just the list goes on and on and on of iconic players that have played in this game and played for these teams in this rivalry as well. So, like I said, currently the last game on this contract is this year in 2025. The negotiations so far have been kind of at a standstill a little bit. USC has offered an additional year, so a 2026 game that will, of course, go back to LA in the Coliseum. So they have offered that, and they kind of want to do this game on a year-to-year basis. Notre Dame is not in the business of doing this game on a year-to-year basis at all. They want a long-term commitment. They want a 10, 15, 20-year commitment. They've been playing this game and preparing for this game for over 100 years, like I've said. So they want a long-term commitment. Some of the reasons why I think USC is on the fence about a long-term commitment is, one, the strength of schedule dynamic. So how that works in college football is not like the NFL. It's not like professional sports. There isn't a level playing field. A schedule for a team in the Big Ten and the SEC is going to be much harder than a team in the Big 12 and the ACC, much even more hard than any team in the Group of Five. Yet all of those teams are considered FBS schools and playing comparable schedules. That kind of thought and that kind of notion has been bullcrap, and it's been bullshit for a very, very long time. And USC is looking at, hey, we're in the Big Ten now. We're in at least one, maybe the best conference, or at the very least 1B to the SEC's 1A right now. But we're in one of the top two conferences in the entire country right now. We have to play in a conference with teams like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon. List goes on and on and on. Washington comes back up, but just a really good, a lot of really good programs, a really good history. And now you're saying we got to continue this rivalry with Notre Dame every single season, including all these other games. Now, there's two ways you can look at this. I'm a USC fan, so you could say I'm biased, but the way I'm going to look at that for people that are calling out USC in this situation is you're the ones that decided to break up the Pac-12 and go to the Big Ten. You knew your schedule was going to be tougher. You knew the travel was going to be tougher, and you knew that you play Notre Dame every year, so you shouldn't be whining about that now. And I agree with the people who are saying that. But what I also will argue is, if USC plays, say they play Oregon, Ohio State, say they play Oregon and Michigan. They play Oregon and Michigan this year, and then they play Notre Dame, and they lose 3 of those games. And then there's a team from the Group of 5, or even from the ACC or the Big 12, that is 10-2. That 10-2 team will get a better chance at the playoffs than a 9-3 USC team who has lost the 3 teams that are most likely going to be in the playoff at that point, just being hypothetical there. And that is the issue with the strength of schedule dynamic in college football. There has never been kind of an actual strength of schedule. There's people that make strength of schedules on the side, but there's never been an actual way to break down what the strength of schedule is. So USC sitting there like, hey, if we got to travel another time to the Midwest, we got to play another top 10 program. Why do we have to do that to ourselves every single year? When Notre Dame used to play Michigan all the time, that's not happening anymore. They used to play Penn State all the time. That's not happening anymore. Why is it because we have this long-standing rivalry that we still have to do this when we're playing in one of the best conferences in the country? And I happen and tend to agree with that conversation there. I do agree with people who are saying you're the ones that decided to get in that conference. That is also a valid opinion as well. But just want to look at this as a whole. What I think could happen and should happen from this conversation and from this issue is Notre Dame finally getting their ass into a conference for football. Notre Dame plays in the ACC for every single other sport that they play outside of football. That should not be a thing anymore. Notre Dame is still one of the most prestigious brands in college football, but is not head and shoulders above the rest of the sport like it may have been in the 60s and the 70s, 50s, 80s. That is not the case anymore. In fact, Notre Dame has not won a national title since 1988. That was before I was born. That's before probably a lot of the people who are going to listen and talk about this topic may have even been born, or if they were born at that time, they weren't exactly, coherent, or they were still kids at that point. So they haven't won a title in over 35 years at this point. And last year was their first good showing in the playoff. They've made the playoff other times and been absolutely hammered by the likes of Alabama, Clemson, other teams like that. They've been absolutely hammered. So this Notre Dame program, while I think it is heading in the right direction and could potentially be a top 5 program going forward, it is not head and shoulders over the rest of the sport like it was about 50, 60 years ago. So they should not have the right to still be independent. There is no more teams out there. BYU was independent. Now they're in the Big 12. Liberty was independent. Now I believe they're in the Sun Belt. There is no more independent teams that can make their own schedule every single fucking year like Notre Dame does. And Notre Dame, you're no longer special like you were before. You're another program with a great history. But as of right now, you're not that special program that should get special preferences and should get their own schedule every year because they can create it because they're fucking Notre Dame. That is not the case anymore. And what I think should come out of this issue is Notre Dame joining a conference, whether they join the ACC and just be in the ACC for everything, including football. Hell, the Big Ten would take them tomorrow. And you join the Big Ten, you know what that would probably guarantee you? Every single year you're playing USC. Every single year you're playing USC because USC and UCLA join the Big Ten together. And guess what? They're going to be playing every single year going forward because that is a rivalry that college football cares about and that the Big Ten cares about. They'll care about the USC-Notre Dame rivalry, especially if they're in the same conference. So I think that is something that that could be positive coming out of this issue is Notre Dame finally getting their ass into a conference. And final thing I will say about this is at the end of the day, this rivalry should continue. It's one of the best rivalries in all of college football. I would say it's close to a top 10, top 15 rivalry in all of American sports. And it's one of the longest running rivalries in all of American sports when you talk about it on kind of the high end there. This rivalry should continue. I do believe they will come to some sort of agreement for a long-term matchups between these two teams so they continue this rivalry. But I do not have an issue with USC pushing back a little bit on Notre Dame saying, hey, no, you're going to be able to make your schedule every single year. You're going to be able to stay independent as long as you want. We're not playing your games anymore. We'll play you every other season. We'll play you every third season or whatever. Yes. Is that going to hurt college football as a product? Probably, because that game is still a very good game. Even though last year's game, USC was down, not great last year, was still a good game until the end with those 2 pick sixes. The game 3 years ago with Caleb Williams, that was the game where he won the Heisman Trophy, was that game against Notre Dame. So this is still a really big game, and it's something that, especially if USC can get their act together and get back on track, could be a really big game going forward for the future and for college football as a whole. So we don't need to lose this game. I really think that we should hold on to this game, but I do not mind USC pushing back on Notre Dame a little bit. I know Notre Dame fans are all upset, calling USC cowards, whiners, things like that. And yes, is USC ducking Notre Dame maybe a little bit, and maybe it was a little bit of their own problem by joining the Big Ten? Yes, I agree. And actually, this will be my final thing that I say on this. This should not be up to Lincoln Riley and Marcus Freeman or even Jen Cohen and the athletic director at Notre Dame. There should be an actual governing body over college football, not the NCAA because they're a bunch of idiots basically at this point. But there should be an actual governing body that can step in and be like, no. We're not leaving this up to you guys. We'll make this decision. We have, college football as a whole, the fans, the players, everybody wants this game to stay. So we're going to make this decision. This game's going to stay. We're going to figure out these other issues as well, but this game is going to stay. That should be the ultimate opinion of someone who's actually governing over college football. But as you know, if you're a college football fan, no one's watching over this sport right now. It's in chaos. It's in Wild West right now. Luckily, the product on the field is great right now, or else this sport would be hurting a lot more. But luckily, the product on the field is really good. But either way, at the end of the day, Notre Dame, get your ass in a fucking conference at this point. USC, extend the deal. Let's not do this. Let's not, pander too much. We tried to get them. Let's keep on trying to get them into a conference and not play their games. But let's actually play games with them and play and continue this rivalry. And at the end of the day, this rivalry should be played until college football is no longer played, whatever that is. Hopefully I am dead, long dead by that point, because I do not want to see a world without college football. But either way, let's extend this game. Let's get this contract extended. Notre Dame, get your ass in a conference. That's all I really want to see out of this issue. Next, second topic, we're going to go over to the NBA. And don't talk a lot of NBA on here because the product, in my opinion, has kind of fallen off in the last decade or so. So I don't watch and cover and look and follow the NBA as much as I did when I was a kid, even about 5-10 years ago. I don't follow it nearly as much. But something I wanted to talk about going into this conference finals here. So we're 2 games in both series. We got the Pacers and the Knicks. Pacers have won both the games in New York in thrilling fashion, especially that Game 1 comeback. And then we have the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Oklahoma City has kind of looked dominant in their first 2 wins over the Minnesota Timberwolves. But those are the 2 conference finals right now. The reason I bring this up is because a lot of people in the past, and people are actually saying this now, that these 4 teams in the conference finals is a nightmare scenario for the NBA because 3 out of 4 are small markets, no big kind of stars outside of maybe Anthony Edwards is probably the biggest star, even though SGA just won the MVP. He's probably not still a big star or a household name to a lot of people. And you're missing guys like LeBron, Curry, Kevin Durant, the Boston Celtics, big brands like that. But I'm going to go ahead and take a different view on this. And I think this is actually good for the NBA. Because what the NBA has done over the last 5 to 7 years, more than they should have, is they've held on to their old stars. They've held on to LeBron. They've held on to Curry too long, and even Durant and even other guys like that, too long, and haven't propped up their young stars like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like a Jalen Brunson, like an Anthony Edwards, who they've just kind of propped up recently. But they've held on to these old stars, and they haven't propped up and kind of given the platform and given the stage to their young players. I mean, if you're watching throughout the regular season, there's a big Sunday or Saturday primetime game. Who's playing? Oh, it's Lakers Warriors, Steph versus LeBron. Oh, it's it's Celtics Lakers, or it's Kevin Durant versus LeBron. It's these big names, these guys like that, these big names that were great players, but they're no longer great players, and they're no longer great teams. The Celtics, I thought, could be a great team this year, but they weren't. They were too kind of held down by shooting a three-pointer every fucking possession. So they're held down too much by doing that. So I didn't like their performance at all in the second round, of course, but the NBA was doing an awful job holding on to LeBron and Curry because those guys were the only ones getting them TV ratings. And here's the thing. Your TV ratings weren't good anyway. Yes, you were getting good TV ratings with Curry and LeBron, but what you were doing, you were stunting the growth of your league going forward. Because newsflash, those two guys aren't going to be around forever as much as they might think, and they're not on teams that are contending for titles. The Lakers went out in the first round in 5. The Warriors went out in the second round in 5. And that was actually further than a lot of people thought they would go as well. So those teams aren't title contenders anymore. Those players aren't on title contending teams anymore, of course. So quit holding on to these players and prop up your young stars. I mean, looking at these 4 teams, the good thing about that, yes, they're small markets outside of New York, but each and every team in this conference finals has a young budding star. You have SGA, who just won the MVP for the Oklahoma City Thunder. You have Anthony Edwards, a young budding star that reminds people of kind of like a poor man's Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who just kind of coming into his own. You have Tyrese Halliburton for the Indiana Pacers, who's just making clutch shot, clutch play after clutch play, and has been great this postseason so far, really coming into himself as a superstar in this league. And then finally for the New York Knicks, you have Jalen Brunson, a guy from Villanova, guy from that area, kind of that northeast area, hardworking guy, but he's a guy who can be clutch in moments, can hit big shots, can make just unbelievable plays at the rim as well. These are 4 players on these 4 teams that the NBA should be looking at to help build their brand going forward. 3 of these guys are American, in Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, and Jalen Brunson. So that's huge because of the kind of the foreign impact from guys like Giannis and Jokic and Luka and even SGA that these guys have had recently. So you got 3 out of the 4 are American, and all 4 of them are young. They're under 25, 27 years old. These are guys that can help build your brand and get your game back on track going forward. You don't need to hold on to Curry and LeBron. They had their time. It was great. They had great battles both in the conference finals when LeBron was on the Lakers, and then of course their battles in the finals when LeBron was in Cleveland. And I think they played in 4 finals. And that great 3-1 comeback by LeBron in Cleveland in 2016. They've had their time. You need these guys now to pick up your game, and take it to the future. Even if TV ratings take a hit for this conference finals, maybe they don't stack up to last year, even though last year's weren't great either, but maybe they don't stack up to last year or years prior. But what's going to help is, especially if the Timberwolves can win this game 3 at home today, and the Knicks and Brunson can bounce back and make this a series versus Indiana. What's really going to help is your viewers. Now, your diehard viewers are going to know these 4 guys, and they're going to know a lot about these 4 guys. It's not going to be an issue for them. But your casual viewers that you pick up during the playoffs that don't know too much about these players, they're going to start to hear and know about these players even more in this conference finals. And here's the thing. These players are here to stay. They're going to be in the league for another decade plus, most of them. So hold on to these guys. push these guys up, give them the stage, because this is the future of your league, and your league is kind of hurting right now. And you need these young guys to be the future of your league. In 5 years, LeBron and Curry will not be in the league, most likely. So you need these guys who will be in the league, plus other guys as well, to prop up and push up your league. Give them the stage. Enjoy this stage for them in the conference finals. Yes, the TV ratings they may pale in comparison to LeBron Curry days, but this is what was needed for the NBA to move into the future, for these young stars to help take over and show that they can take the torch from guys like LeBron and Curry as well. And finally, and we're going to go to my last topic, and it's going to be in the NFL, and the Tush Push avoids a ban. So on Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday, the Tush Push avoided a ban by 2 votes. So how the voting ended up being was 10 teams voted to keep the Tush Push, 22 teams voted to ban it. And what the NFL needed to do a full ban was 24 teams to vote against it. That would have been a 3/4 vote, since there's 32 teams in the NFL. 24 is 3/4 of those teams. They needed a 3/4 of the league to vote to ban it for them to actually ban the Tush Push. That did not happen. So that play will continue this year, and the Eagles, especially the team that uses it by far the best, of course, will be able to keep that play and use that play going into the 2025 NFL season. You've heard my stance on this. I'm a little bit on the fence, and I don't like to ride the fence when it comes to issues. I like to choose a side, but I'm a little bit on the fence with this issue because I can kind of see both sides. Let's start with the reason why I'm against it. This is not an exciting play. It's a real boring play. You kind of just have a big jumble, and then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is underneath it for like 2-3 yards, and he's got a first down or a touchdown. So not a very exciting play. Second reason I'm against it, it's basically an automatic first down or touchdown for the Eagles when they use this play. Whether it's like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you know they're going to get to pick up the first down. First and goal from the 1 or 2 yard line, you know they're going to score a touchdown. It's become an automatic play for the Eagles, who are one of the best teams in the league. Of course, of the world, they're the Super Bowl champions. So currently, right now, they're the best team in the league and have been one of the best teams in the league for the last 5-6 years as well. So this has become an automatic play for them, and I don't believe there should be any automatic, consistent play that any team is using. Third reason is there is a safety concern. I mean, you have just a jumble of giant humans on the offensive and defensive line going at each other, and then the offensive line is getting pushed by the quarterback and 2 guys behind the quarterback. So there's a lot of just things that can happen in a pile like that between both sides of the ball. So there is that safety concern. NFL is supposed to be all about safety, even though I think that's more of a talking point than an actual issue with the NFL sometimes. But either way, they seem to be all about safety. And I think this play could be a safety. This can be a safety concern. And then finally, my last reason I'm against it, it's not really a football play. It's more of a rugby play. It's more of a scrum. If you've ever watched or followed rugby at all, it's more of a scrum, what they do a lot in rugby. That's not a football play. Those are 2 totally different sports. They look very similar, but they're 2 totally different sports. So those are the 4 reasons I'm against it and why I think the ban should have been in place against this play. Here's the reasons why I'm for it. Currently, it's not breaking any rules. If it's, I am a fan of the Patriots. You can see the flag behind me. Belichick and the Patriots basically kind of pushed the issue as much as they can, and obviously went over the line on some things, but pushed the issue as much as they can to get any kind of advantage in the game. That's exactly what the Eagles are doing here. So currently, it's not breaking any rules. And although it looks like, because of the nature of the play, it could be a safety concern, there really hasn't been a lot of major injuries that resulted from this play, whether on the offensive side for the Eagles or any team that runs it, or the defensive side for the teams that are defending it. There really hasn't been a lot of major injuries. There's been some nicks and some cuts and some small minor injuries, but no real major injuries have resulted from this play. So yes, I believe just the nature of the play is a safety concern, but it hasn't become an actual major safety concern because there hasn't been any actual major injuries that have resulted from this play either. And then finally, the Eagles shouldn't be punished for perfecting this play. And the reason why they've been able to perfect this play is because, first and foremost, their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, not the tallest guy, he's about 6'1", 6'2", but his lower body strength. This dude squats 600-plus pounds. Find me another quarterback in history in the NFL that has been able to do that. And he knows how to kind of get himself at a low center of gravity, get behind the center and push forward. And like I said, with his lower body strength, that really helps him perfect this play. And then you had Jason Kelce, who ran this to perfection as the center for years for the Eagles. And now they have Cam Jurgens, who has learned from Jason Kelce how to run this play and is running it to perfection as well. Eagles have had a stout offensive line for probably a decade now, if not more. So that really helps. So this play is uniquely set up for the way the Eagles offensive team is set up with their quarterback and with their offensive line. So I don't think they should be punished because they've perfected this play with their personnel. So that's just kind of why I'm for and against it. Like I said, if I was to vote, I probably wouldn't have voted against it. I feel like that still is a little strong. I probably would have voted for it. But either way, obviously, I'm not part of any team and I don't have a vote. But that just would have been my vote. At the end of the day, this isn't going away. If the Eagles, who I expect to be a good team this year, I expect them to use this play to success in big moments. If that happens again and they're in the Super Bowl, they're in the NFC Championship, or they win the Super Bowl again, this topic will come up again if they continue to use this play to the success that they've had. Pretty much 100% success rate they've gotten from this play. If that continues, and I fully expect that to happen, this topic will come up again. This vote will probably come up again. And eventually, I believe this play will be banned if it continues at the success rate that the Eagles have had. But other teams, can they implement it? Can they figure out a system? The Ravens do it with Mark Andrews. We saw the Bills do it to kind of fail to do it against the Chiefs a couple of times in the AFC Championship game. I really believe this play is perfectly set up, like I said, for the Eagles and how they run their offense. So that's why they have this play and why it's perfect. But at the end of the day, this play stays for another year, but it's not going away. I could totally see this topic coming up again next year or the year after if the Eagles continue to have basically 100% success rate, which I expect them to have. If they continue their success on the field as a whole, which I expect them to do as well. So this isn't going away anytime soon. And neither am I here on Sports Talk on a Budget. So if you like the video version, please like and subscribe right down here on YouTube. Leave a comment with some of your comments at any of the topics I talk about. However, if you prefer the audio version, please go and like and subscribe on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day and have a great Memorial Day weekend. Remember, this weekend is a 3-day weekend. It's supposed to be about, yes, enjoy, have a couple of drinks, have a couple of cocktails, enjoy, have a good time, spend time with family. But remember what this weekend is. Remember our fallen heroes. Remember the troops that have lost their lives for this country to keep it free and to keep it safe. Remember, that is the reason why we have a long weekend. It's not so we can drink and have a good time, but also do that as well. But remember the reason why this weekend is a long weekend, and remember our fallen heroes and the troops that have given us the reason to stay free and the reason to be safe in this country. Thank you and have a great weekend.